Greg Pinio here. You have to know that I'm sitting here in a sound studio trying to visualize where you are in your day, in your city at this time. People are busy. We live in a life that has a lot going on. We're torn, we're pulled in a lot of different directions, aren't we? You can relate to that. There are days I wake up and I think, my gosh, I feel like a Christmas goose getting plucked from every direction. It's in those times I reflect on the words of some great people who have understood what it means to be in a stressful situation. One such person is Thomas Paine. War, by definition, is stressful. War is conflict. War brings out the essence of who you are. Thomas Paine writes, "I love the man that can smile in trouble, that can gather strength from distress and grow brave by reflection. 'Tis the business of little minds to shrink." You know, I read those words and they encourage me. I'm just like you. There are days I want to crawl into a corner and shrink. There are days when it feels like the world is too big, that the responsibilities are too great, that I'm just one person, and what can one person do? I'm just like you. And yet I've found that it's in those moments when you really see who you are. It's in those moments that you gather your very best. You look inside yourself. You look at your game plan. You approve your own conscience, and you stay the course. Anybody can seem calm when the seas are calm. It's when things get really ugly on the water. That's when we find out who we are. My encouragement to you, stay calm. Keep perspective. We're all very, very fortunate to live in this wonderful country that has opportunity everywhere if we have eyes to see it. You're bigger than you think you are. I'm bigger than I think I am. We can do so much more if we just believe that we can do it, that we are strong, and that we are brave. I love the man that can smile in trouble, that can gather strength from distress and grow brave by reflection. 'Tis the business of little minds to shrink. It's always such a privilege to come to you and challenge your mind. You need to know that every time I speak to challenge you, I challenge myself. This month we're going to talk about some hard stuff. We're going to talk about mistakes that I have seen people make over and over and over again in their real estate investing. We can learn a lot from people who do things right. We can learn as much or more by paying attention to things that went wrong. After a lot of years of being involved in this sport, I've had my eyes peeled. I've been learning every day of my career. And I've taken a lot of notes. I've taken a lot of notes on what's gone right. I've taken a lot of notes on what's gone wrong. When I see a project that's gone wrong, I want to learn from that project and see what was it? What was it that they didn't think of? What was it that they didn't consider that made this project a loser? At the top of that list, number one on the list, is underestimating remodeling costs and remodeling time. Now, I've got 25 mistakes that I've seen people make, and I put that one right at the start of the list. It is a proverb. It is so common to hear people say, gosh, this remodel cost a lot more than I thought it would. And this remodel took a lot more time than I thought it would. I am certain I have heard that comment at least 500 times in my life. I've also experienced that in my own life. Remodeling, by definition, is an endeavor into the unknown. It rarely is better than you thought it would be. It usually takes more work than you thought it would. When we know that going in, we need to pad ourselves. We need to pad our costs. We need to pad and be realistic in our time frame. The more we know about the process of remodeling, the better we're going to be with estimating costs and time. My suggestion here to avoid that mistake: get very tight with some seasoned, experienced remodeling contractors. Really go after those people and get to know those people who have done a lot of remodeling. Have realistic people give you realistic answers so that you can make accurate assessments of cost and time. Okay? The second mistake. I see this in young investors all the time. I call it deal-itis. They've gotten their new shoes on. They've gotten their new shirt. They've got their new education, and they are ready to rock and roll. And they go out there, and a week goes by, and they haven't found a bird. And they get all itchy. They get all excited. 2 weeks goes by, and they're just panting. They think they've done something wrong because they haven't found the bird. They're a young pup in a big field, and pretty soon, they just buy anything just to buy something. Patience. Patience. We buy when the deal is right to buy. When all of what we're looking for in terms of location, in terms and expandability is there, we buy. We're always buyers when the deal is right. But we wait patiently for the right deal. I promise you this: when you buy the wrong thing just to get going on a project, just about that same time that you commit yourself to buy, the right deal will come along, and you will have used up your time, energy, and all of your resources. I'm certain of it. It's the way of things. Another mistake I see: when people find that deal, be it a good deal or a bad deal, they start working on a project. Everything in their marketing and prospecting department stops. They are one deal focused. They put all their attention onto that particular acquisition, to that remodel, onto the new management of that particular property. If it's a multiplex, they're going through each unit. They're getting that building looking like they want it. Every bit of their attention and focus is on that latest acquisition, and their prospecting for new birds stops. Their hunt for money stops. Their hunt for buyers and assignees stops. The entire machinery that is their business stops. The problem is that once you've got your remodel under control or your new building under control, you've got to fire up the entire engine of your business from scratch again. Never let your marketing stop. Never let your prospecting stop. Put these things on autopilot. They need to be running 24/7, 364. This machine, this business that you have set up takes a lot of work to get it going. It takes a lot of momentum to get these systems in place and get them running. The last thing you want to do is stop that momentum. If you go, to any business out there, when Nike sells a pair of tennis shoes, do you think they get so singularly focused on that particular transaction that their marketing stops? Marketing is going 24/7. Customer relations, prospecting, all of these things continue to go. You're running a business, remember. You're running a business. Business does not shut its doors because it's finally found a customer. You're looking for your next customer, your next prospect, your next good acquisition, your next borrowed money from an investor, your next assignee, your next buyer. Everything continues. In that same vein, I would like to challenge some of you on a different topic. I see people who are highly talented doing $10 an hour job site cleanup type work. Hire this out. Use your talents where your talents are best served. Okay? I'm all about hard work. I'm all about diving in. But I see people on job sites week after week after week where they could have hired out what they're doing for $1,000. They could have been out making $10,000 in the same effort elsewhere. Be very careful. We have one resource that equalizes the universe, and that is 24 hours a day. Make sure you're spending your time the way your talents are best served. All right, the next mistake I see. I'm going to assume that you are buying your real estate in a great location. All right, now that's a bad assumption because it goes without saying, I see people every day of the week buying real estate in just generally terrible locations. But even in a great location, generally, I see people buying real estate on busy streets, next door to nuisance properties, buying property with no parking at all off street. I see people buying property on steep slopes with very, very obvious site problems in a generally good location. Understand that you can change that particular building or that particular house that you own. But it is not in your control to make the neighbor next door remove the 6 dead cars and the old washing machines and the blue tarp on his roof. You can't do anything about that. But understand that the condition of that property highly affects the marketability and the rentability of the one you just bought. Be aware of these things. It sounds so simple, but it's a mistake I see happening all the time. Next mistake. I see people putting a remodeled house back on the market before it is totally done and staged. We have come so far in this process. We've found the bird. We've bought the property. We've gone to great extremes to remodel this property. Why in the world do people put this property on the market a week short of really, truly being done? Do this for me. Grab a blue roll of masking tape, and I want you to have somebody, a third party, not your own eyes, walk through that house with absolute critical eyes before it goes on the market. Do not put it on the market until every piece of blue tape is removed. Every nick, every touch-up paint, every cleanup site, every last detail needs to be done right. The property needs to be staged properly. Done before it goes on the market. Remember, primacy effect. Aristotle, the first thing people see, they will remember. You are shooting yourself in the foot to have them walk up and go, oh, you're not quite done. I want that first impression to be absolutely knock you on your butt. Wow, this is gorgeous. So important. Be done before the property goes on the market. All right? The next problem I see are people buying what I call obsolete properties. Here you have a neighborhood, a very family neighborhood of 3-bedroom, 2-bath homes in a neighborhood. And then all of a sudden in that neighborhood is a very, very small lot with a tiny little 700 square foot 1-bedroom house. and you think, gosh, what a buy. That's an obsolete property. Nothing around that property conforms to what it is now that you own. You just bought the odd duck. You don't want to own the odd duck. You want to own what everybody else wants. Everybody doesn't want an odd duck. This is the lemon. Are you with me? Buy conforming properties. If you're in an area of 1926 Tudors, you'd like to own a 1926 Tudor, not a 1958 flat-roofed rockcrete siding, flat box surrounded by 1926 Tudors. You've got the odd duck. Don't buy the odd duck. Okay? The next problem I see, this is right up there with underestimating remodeling costs. It falls under the heading that I call lack of finance planning. Let's start with the basics. Writing up a non-contingent offer to buy a house when you have no idea how you're going to finance it, that's just flat out irresponsible. I want your word to be your word. If you need to go get a loan and this offer is truly conditioned upon you getting a loan, make sure you have proper finance contingencies built into your offer. Okay? The second part that falls under that lack of finance planning is having a short-term cash out where your only means of meeting that cash out is to buy the property, remodel it, and resell it all in a short period of time. Well, guess what? What if the remodel takes a little longer? What if the market changes? What if the thing takes longer from start to finish than you thought it would? All of a sudden, you've got a cash out problem. That's your fault. Give yourself plenty of time in your finance plan to meet your objectives. Remember what you're signing, no matter if it is with a bank or a private party, is an instrument called a promissory note. Make your promises count. Do what you say you're going to do, and make sure that you've given yourself enough time to do what you've got to do to meet your financial obligations. Another lack of finance planning mistake I see is buying a long-term hold property and then signing up for an adjustable rate mortgage. Remember, on our long-term hold acquisitions, we want low interest long-term financing. Long-term financing to meet long-term hold objectives. Short-term financing, like adjustable rate mortgages, should not marry long-term hold objectives. I see this happening all the time. Next problem I see. Wow, this just is amazing to me. But this is buying properties with what I call major, obvious issues right out of the chute. Properties that have no foundation. Let's start with that. That's a bad thing. Survey says 9 out of 10 people buying houses would like them to have foundations. Okay? In the buy and flip criteria, you only have 3 months between purchase and no longer an owner. You are not going to go get permits, jack this thing up in the air and put a foundation on it, set the house back down, hook it up, and do all of that in a 30 to 60 day remodel period. You're not. Houses without foundations, unless you're planning to buy them and bulldoze them, don't work for me. Houses that have swaying roof rafters, where you look at it from a distance and it looks like it's quaking and shimmering like, waves on an ocean. This is a major, major effort to strip off the entire roof framing structure, reframe the whole roof, resheet the whole roof, re-roof the whole roof. No, not going to happen. All right? Leaky basements. Being a Northwesterner, being a Seattle native, it amazes me how many people try to go into a remodel knowing that what they've bought has a leaky basement. Trust me, a leaky basement is one of the most difficult things to permanently and confidently fix. You dig it up from the outside, you think you've got it sealed, you spend a whole bunch of money furring out the inside, finishing that basement out, only to find that you haven't solved the leak. Well, guess what? Now you've just done all that work for nothing. You've got to tear it all out, try to find the leak again. It's one of the most difficult things to find and be assured that you've cured is a leaky basement. When I see a leaky basement, I just don't even think about finishing that basement space. Forget it. It's unfinished, it's storage, it's got a laundry facility hooked up, period, end of story. That's it. All right? People buying houses with basements that have less than 7 foot of headroom. And they think they're going to finish them. Well, first of all, we've got code issues to talk about. But second of all, even if you meet the minimum ceiling height with code, is there anybody on the planet that likes low ceilings? It's something you can't change. Without a major effort, you can't change it. So that's a property that I'm going to move away from. Or it's a property that I'm not going to plan on calling that basement space finished space in any way, shape, and form. Okay? Now here's a problem of an entirely different nature. A problem I call analysis paralysis. I've had students that can write the most amazing 30-page brief analyzing a property, but they never do anything. But boy, can they analyze the property. We have to be able to know if we're moving forward to make an offer within about 10 minutes of meeting the seller, looking at the property. All gauges should be moving towards action within 10 minutes. If you feel you need to do a 30-day analysis on the property and write a 45-page brief, we need to rewire you in some way. I need you to understand that good investment means making an intelligent decision rather quickly. Remember, we're looking for right opportunities. I use the hunting metaphor a lot. It bothers some people. Deal with it. That pheasant does not stand there waving its little wings, saying, "Here I am, shoot me. And by the way, I'll stand here for 30 days and just kind of give you the best angle so that you can decide whether it is me that you really want." It doesn't do that. Opportunities do not hang around and wait forever. We have got to be able to see it, look at it, and make a decision rather quickly. To be able to do that, we need to be up on our sold comps. We need to know value. We need to know zoning. We need to know our construction costs. We need to be able to make a decision within 10 minutes if we are go or no go once we've met the seller and we are at a place where they say, "Okay, are you going to do this?" I can't tell them, "Listen, I'll get back to you in 30 days after I do a full analysis." That's not going to work. Another problem. I see people buying long-term hold property whereby they are not counting all of the true expenses in that property and putting them in their financial analysis. I see people saying, "Okay, you bet, gosh, the rent covers my payment." Well, isn't that great? I'm glad the rent covers your payment. But does that rental income also cover your taxes, your insurance, your maintenance, your utilities, your management time, the vacancy projections? Does it truly cover the cost? People buy property all the time that has negative cash flow. I've never understood that. That makes no sense to me. Why would you put a whole bunch of money down, put your energy into something that every month loses money? I need your long-term holds to truly cover themselves. In our Wisdom for Wealth and Foundations for Freedom workbooks, we provide you very detailed spreadsheet fill in the blank paperwork that allows you to count all of the costs. I would ask that to avoid this problem, you really look at that material. You really study it to make sure that you're looking at all of the costs. To assume that the insurance premiums that the last owner was paying will be the insurance premiums that you'll be paying as the new owner, there you go. There's one big mistake. I bought a property recently where the last owner, their insurance premium, because they've been a client with this company for 30 years, their last insurance premium was $1,200 a year for a sixplex. Upon ownership change, me now as the new buyer, the best premium I could get on this building was $9,000 a year. Gosh, that $7,800 a year difference had better be factored in to your analysis. Again, a mistake I'm seeing, not counting all of the costs of ownership when making a decision around a long-term hold property. Okay, here's another mistake. You've got a property. You either are looking at it to decide whether you're interested, or you have it under contract with a contingency of inspection. I see people not taking the time to go next door, one door next door, two doors next door, to talk to the neighbors in that particular area. Understand that 20 minutes with Gladys is going to tell you a lot more than all of the title information you could possibly gather on that building. It also is an opportunity to let Gladys know that you're interested perhaps in buying her property now that you have this one under contract. Neighborhood review is critical. Wouldn't you want to know if the guy across the street every night plays loud music from 10 o'clock at night till 2 o'clock in the morning? Wouldn't you want to know about that prior to buying your rental property straight across the street from them? I would. These are things that come out only in talking to neighbors. So my suggestion is this: make sure that either prior to putting it under contract or during your inspection contingency that you're talking to the neighbors around that property. You will be amazed at how much you'll learn. Let's talk for a moment about partnerships. Now, I could sit here for 2 hours and talk about the topic of partnerships. And you know that someday I will. But right now, what I want to tell you is that if you deem that having a partner is necessary for a certain acquisition, a problem I see all the time are partners that have no written agreement about the terms of that partnership. Every detail of what your partnership is about needs to be outlined, put in writing, reviewed by your attorney, reviewed by your CPA, to make sure that you've thought of everything and it is in writing. Let me say a word about being partners with close friends and partners with family members. Please understand that when you choose to go that direction, that you have now got an obligation of clarity. If you have a dispute, you stand to lose more than just the property that partnership owns. You stand to lose a friend. You stand to lose a family member. Communication is how we solve these things. That every what if then scenario is talked about and put in writing prior to that partnership being involved in a financial transaction. Partnerships on handshakes sound great. They don't work. Understand that clarity is the name of the game, and sitting down with an attorney, sitting down with a CPA, they will help you ask the difficult questions. Okay, what if one of you die in the middle of this agreement? What if this? What if that? Who's responsible for this? Who's responsible for that? All of these things need to be talked about and put in writing prior to you endeavoring in your acquisition. All right, next problem I see. This problem has to do with giving away your entrepreneurship. When I buy an income-producing property, I am basing what I'm willing to pay for that property on the rents that are currently being collected on that property and deducting the current expenses. In other words, I'm creating an income approach to value. And based on that, I start from there to work then with the terms of the transaction. Now, yes, I may be able to offer a little more if I have favorable terms, favorable interest rate, but the bottom line is this. If I am going to take the risk of raising rents, I am going to benefit by that risk and entrepreneurship. Buying a property on the thought that, gosh, when I do all of these things, when I build storage units, when I put in coin-operated laundry, when I rent the parking that isn't currently rented, when I do all of these things, and when I raise the rent on all these units, when I do all of that, then I'll have enough income to pay for the debt service and the expenses on this building. No, I've just given away all of my entrepreneurship. Now, there isn't a seller out there that's not going to say, gosh, my rents are low. Oh, gee, I could raise all of my rents. You know what? Don't bite that worm. If it was so easy, they would have done it. If there was no risk in raising rents, they would have done it. Very, very, very few sellers out there are completely uninterested in the income stream that this building has the potential to produce. If you take the risk to raise rents, you should be the one to benefit by virtue of valuation change in that building. Make sense? Do not give away your entrepreneurship. Another common problem that I see that sort of ties in with this same topic are buyers not doing a thorough inspection of books and records as it relates to an income-producing property. Every offer I have ever written on an income-producing property, an apartment building, always has in it a contingency having to do with review of leases, books, and records. I need to know if the leases that are on this building are long-term leases. I need to see their expenses. I need to study their Schedule E on their tax return to really see what it is they're reporting to the government in terms of income and expense. Again, everybody's going to tell you, oh gosh, the maintenance of this building is a piece of cake. Only cost me $100 a year. Okay, I'll believe you when I see your Schedule E, seeing exactly what you deducted in terms of maintenance expense in that given year. In other words, do a complete analysis of this building. Do you see now that I'm kind of playing with two things? Because just a few back, I said that a problem is analysis paralysis. What's the difference between what I'm telling you now and that problem? Simply this: I need to know enough to take action. And I need to do that decisively and quickly. Once I have done that, I need to also be intelligent to have written in legitimate inspection contingencies. Inspection of the building, inspection of books and records. Those are legitimate contingencies. Don't waste a lot of time doing it. Don't tie up somebody's property for no reason. I don't believe in that. But I do believe in doing a thorough analysis of reality. Okay? So be sure that you're reviewing rental agreements, you're reviewing the tax return, you're reviewing all of their expenses on the building so that you're making an intelligent decision. Number 15 on our list, if you're keeping track, is something that I see happening a lot. People buying properties that have basement units and not factoring properly the difficulty in keeping basement units full. Basement units need to have an entirely different vacancy rate factor than do above ground dwelling units. Let's just ask the simple question. Survey says 9 out of 10 people are not going to live in a basement unit. Especially single women. They feel very, very unsafe when most of their unit is underground and their window is ground level. That makes people nervous, where somebody could break in very easily. It also has the potential of feeling kind of damp, feeling kind of musty. It's just a much more difficult unit to keep rented. So know that going in. You may have a 5 to 10% vacancy factor built in your above ground units. Make sure that you factor a 10 to 20% vacancy factor in your basement units. It's just looking at things realistically, okay? The next one on the list. Wow. Now this one gets very, very subjective. This is where we sense a person that we're doing business with, be it a seller, be it a potential tenant, be it anybody, that we sense that they are not honorable and not trustworthy. I have to tell you that every tenant that I've rented to where I've had an instinct that, this could be a real problem. I don't think that they're really trustworthy. I don't think they're honorable. And for whatever reason, I've gone ahead and rented to them anyway. I have paid for every one of those scenarios. I got to tell you, I haven't made a mistake in that department in a long, long time, because when I was younger, it was all about keeping units full. Keep them full, and you feel pressured. Gosh, I got to have that rental income stream. And you say, yeah, okay, I really don't think this guy is a real good guy, but, he's got the cash and he's ready to move in. A vacant unit has only and ever cost me what I missed in rent. A bad tenant can cost you 10 times that much. Trust your instincts. People that are not trustworthy, that are not honest, that don't have good intentions, they will hurt you. Don't blame them. Blame yourself. Because snakes only bite people that get in the range of the snake. Okay? You want to avoid getting bit by a snake? Walk 50 yards around the snake. It'll never get you. You get close, you start playing with it, guess what? You're going to get bit, and you can't blame the snake. Biting things is what snakes do. All right, this next one I'm going to venture off to have a little humor with it, but it actually has a very, very serious point to it. We've already talked about buying properties with obvious big issues, no foundations, swaying roofs, those kinds of things. Those are basic structural problem issues, okay? This one, though, is along the same lines, but I call this problem people buying properties that are a pig that you can't change the pig's outfit. Let me give you some examples. In the late 50s and early 60s, they came out with a product called Rockcrete siding. Okay, it's like a stucco product. It's a concrete-based product that has all these shiny little white rocks of gravel troweled into the product. It's laid over wire mesh. It's applied to the outside like stucco, but it's got all these white shiny rocks, rockcrete siding. Guess what? I hope you love rockcrete siding if you buy that, because there's literally nothing you can do about that is cost effective. If you tried to tear that stuff off, believe me, you're going to break every window in the house doing it. It is brutal to try to get off. You're going to have to oftentimes resheet the whole house because it is so adhered to the sheeting underneath. It's like an armadillo's covering. It is bulletproof, but it is ugly, and it will always be ugly. You can put all the lipstick on this pig you want, and it's still a pig. It's ugly. Low ceilings falls into that category. I don't care what you do with the room. I don't care what kind of feng shui you pull out of the bag. The ceilings are still low. You can't change it. That's a pig with lipstick on. It's still a pig, right? Crawl spaces that are 8 inches. What do? You can't do anything about it. People trying to finish a basement whereby the sewer line exits the mid wall of the basement, right? Forget it. You're not putting a bathroom down there. You're not going to do it. These bathrooms that you see in remodels where you have to walk about 5 steps up to sit on the throne, and your head is about 4 inches off the ceiling in some little bathroom room where literally the toilet's 5 feet off the ground so that it can gain sewer slope? What are you thinking? People don't want that. That's a pig with lipstick. Yeah, you've got a bathroom in your house, but it's not a real bathroom. It's a pig with lipstick, all right? These are things that I look at and I just think, what are people thinking? Buying a house that is built out of concrete cinder blocks. How do you change it? What do you do to it? Nothing is the answer. You can paint it, you can stucco it, you can do anything you want to it. It's still a concrete cinder block house. Period. It sweats like a concrete cinder block house. It has little ventilation like a cinder block house. It feels damp like a cinder block house. It'll always be a concrete cinder block house. Really be careful to avoid things like that. I looked at a property about 2 months ago. It was a classic A-frame house. I'm talking a 16-12 pitch. This thing looked like IHOP Pancake House. In the middle of a residential neighborhood of very normal-looking houses, here is Swiss Ski Chalet. What the hell do you do with it? You can't remodel that. You can't make it look different. It's got a 15-12 pitch. It's like a capital A. There's nothing to be done. Don't buy that kind of thing. That's a pig with lipstick. I don't care what you do to it. It's still a pig. Okay? I don't know. You think what you want, but that's what I think about that. A big problem I see. Remember, going back to number 1, remodeling costs are always more than you think. They usually take longer than you think. Well, the problem there is now you've got a property that is coming back on the market oftentimes at a much higher price than the neighborhood can support. This is a problem. You do not want to bring your house back on the market being the most expensive house in the entire neighborhood. Remember, when we're out hunting for property, this is why we're looking for single-family homes in the lower third of values for that area, so that when we bring them back on the market, they are in conformance with, let's say, the upper third of values for that area. But we certainly don't want to bring it back on the market higher priced than anything that the area has ever seen. That's a problem. You may sit on that one. That could be a real problem. In that same general analysis, great locations generally, as we talked about, have streets and areas that are real problems. Busy streets, a block away from the dump, across the street from the juvenile detention hall. These kinds of things are obvious issues. But something that's not quite as obvious, but has, again, survey says, people don't want to live in dark geographic areas. So the bottom of the hill in a dark canyony road where there's a lot of trees, where it gets no sunlight and it's very damp, survey says that's not a big seller. People want daylight. People want an outlook of bright and sunny. And yet every day of the week, somebody buys a house in a cave. I don't get it. I don't know why, but it's a problem. I don't want to own what other people don't want. It's that simple. We have a lot of trees in the Northwest, right? A lot of evergreen trees. They are trees with big, heavy canopies year-round. People don't want to live, generally speaking, in the middle of a dark forest. They want some light. They want some sunshine. Be aware of that. The geographic bowl effect, where all of the drainage comes right down into your house. Steep driveways that come straight down of all this impermeable surface area that come right up to your garage door. Not a big seller, right? When it rains, here comes all this rainwater right down your driveway. Well, it's just not something people want. So let's use some common sense, all right? Okay, back to the management of property. Here's a problem. People who buy property and actually trust a management company to treat that property like an owner would treat it. Now, am I saying you can't own a property whereby you have a management company handling the day in and day out issues? Of course you can do that. But you are managing the managers. You are sitting on that like a chicken on a nest. You are talking to them every week. You're wanting to know what's going on. How's your units? How's the vacancy? How have the maintenance men been doing? And I completely advocate getting by your property as often as possible to make sure people are doing the job that you're hiring them to do effectively. Every month I hear of somebody owning a property out of their state, where the managers are doing nothing, where the property isn't even being shown, vacancies aren't being attended to, the maintenance is getting worse and worse. And yet, they're still charging you. They're still taking your money every month based on the rents that they're collecting, but they're not attending to the property. It's a proverb, hiring an on-site manager, giving them a free rental unit, sometimes even paying them, and they're doing absolutely nothing but sitting around watching Springer all day long. This is a problem, and who's to blame? You are. If you're going to have management managing your properties, you need to manage the managers. Remember, it's your investment. Tend to it. Stay on it. Watch it. All right. I'm going to line up all tenants that I've ever rented to, and I'm going to ask them, what is it that you love about a rental unit? What is it that you absolutely would avoid and hate? I need to know the answers to those things so that as a buyer of real estate, I am looking to buy what tenants want. Let's go through a few of these things. One, I have never interviewed a tenant in my life that said, I just love baseboard heat. Electric baseboard is what I want. Please, I prefer it. On the flip side, 99 out of 100 go out of their way to tell you they don't want that. Okay? So if you're buying a property and it has baseboard heat, know that going in. That's not a big seller. All right? On the flip side, When I get calls on rental property, almost always I'm asked, does the property have hardwood floors? Note to self, hardwood floors are a big seller. People like hardwood floors. Okay? We need to use some common sense because, again, we're just dealers. We are buying and then we have got to fill this thing. We're buying and then we're going to sell. Let's make sure that what we're buying has a market. People want dishwashers. Generally speaking, people don't like hand washing their dishes. Let's make sure that we either have dishwashers or we have the availability to put dishwashers into what we're buying. Washers and dryers in the house or in the unit or in the building. I think laundromats are a pain in the butt. Guess what? So do tenants. They would like to have on-site or preferably in-unit washers and dryers. Let's be aware of that. Parking is a big issue. If you have a unit that doesn't have on-site parking, and you have a prospective tenant that's a single gal, and you try to tell her, hey, there's usually street parking within 2 blocks, no way in the world. She's not going to come home at 9 o'clock at night from a nice dinner and park 2 blocks away and walk in the dark 2 blocks to her dwelling unit. It will not happen. Okay? On-site parking, secure entries. These are things people want. We live in kind of a rough world. Let's be aware of that. And as a buyer of real estate, let's acknowledge the value of those things and not buy property that has absolutely no parking. Anticipate these issues as problems. Because once you own it, guess what? The good, the bad, and the ugly are now in your ownership. You get what you buy. Okay? The last on the list, it simply falls under the topic of education. You know, I'm sitting here really reflecting on 30 years of doing what I do. I've seen a lot of mistakes. I've seen a lot of things go really, really right. I've seen millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars made in this wonderful sport. And I've seen people fly backwards in reverse gear. I think their hair is going to go through the front windshield. Real estate has 2 gears. And I think the difference is that those who truly are successful are pressing their education threshold every single day. They are learning every single day. If you are an owner of income property, it is absolutely essential you know landlord-tenant law like the back of your hand. I promise you this, your tenants will. So you better know it. But in a more general sense, education never ends. Ask a lot of questions. Interview your tenants. Talk with people constantly, asking questions so that your education increases. Read, study, make your car a rolling university. Some of you are driving right now, and I commend you that you're not sitting there listening to some stupid commercial on the radio. Instead, you are pressing your education. You are making your car a valuable learning resource. I commend you. Never let that end. Well, there you go. There's the top 25. The top 25 mistakes I see people make in buying real estate. Once again, it's my privilege to do my best to convey to you the lessons that I've learned in 30 years of being a real estate investor, not only in real estate investing, but the lessons I've learned in life. Remember, success is the sum of the whole, and it's really our heart and desire at Reach Returns to have an impact in your investment, that it would be a straight line, that it would be productive, that it would get you to where you're going, and in your life, that we would have an impact in the way you think, in the motivation that you wake up with every day, so that you can get truly what you want out of this life in all parts. Until next month, and I look forward to it, Greg Pinio, the maintenance man, over and out.
Copyright Reach Returns, all rights reserved.